The great Indian master Shantideva wrote in the 8th century, "All the joy the world contains has come through wishing happiness for others. All the misery the world contains has come through wanting pleasure for oneself." This isn't poetic exaggeration or moral philosophy. It's a precise observation about how karma shapes every aspect of your existence, from the circumstances you were born into, to the people you encounter, to the opportunities and obstacles that define your life's trajectory. According to Tibetan Buddhism, nothing in your experience is random or arbitrary. Your current life path isn't determined by luck, fate, or divine judgment. It's the precise mathematical result of countless intentional actions accumulated across beginningless lifetimes. But here's what changes everything. If karma created your current destiny, then karma can create an entirely different future. If you're ready to understand exactly how your past actions have shaped your present circumstances and how your present choices are creating your future destiny, subscribe now and activate notifications, because what you're about to discover gives you complete agency over the trajectory of your life and all future lives to come. Karma is perhaps the most misunderstood concept in Buddhism when it reaches Western audiences. We tend to think of it as cosmic justice, a universal system that rewards good people and punishes bad people. We say things like, "That's his karma," when someone experiences misfortune, as if karma were an external force dispensing deserved consequences. But this understanding misses the profound sophistication of what Tibetan Buddhism actually teaches about karma's mechanics and its impact on your life. The Sanskrit word karma literally means action, but in the Buddhist context it refers specifically to intentional action, action driven by volition or mental intent. This distinction is crucial. If you're walking and accidentally step on an insect, that's not karma in the Buddhist sense because there was no intention to harm. But if you deliberately kill an insect, or if you deliberately avoid killing an insect despite being irritated by it, both of those are karmic actions because they involve intention. Karma isn't about the physical action itself. It's about the mental factor of intention that motivates the action. Every intentional action, whether of body, speech, or mind, plants what the tradition calls a karmic seed or karmic imprint in your mental continuum. These seeds are potentials for future experience. They remain dormant, sometimes for moments, sometimes for years, sometimes for lifetimes, until conditions ripen them. When they ripen, they manifest as your experience. The circumstances you find yourself in, the people you meet, the thoughts and emotions that arise, the opportunities that appear or fail to appear. Your entire life, in the Tibetan understanding, is the fruition of karmic seeds planted in this and previous lifetimes. This teaching becomes immediately practical when you understand its implications. Every experience you're having right now is showing you something about your past karma. Every choice you're making right now is planting seeds for future experience. You're simultaneously experiencing the results of past actions and creating causes for future results. This present moment is both fruition and planting, both harvest and sowing. Understanding this gives you tremendous power, because while you can't change the karma that's already ripening as your current circumstances, you can absolutely change the karma you're creating right now that will ripen as future circumstances. The Tibetan tradition, drawing on the Indian Abhidharma texts and the teachings of masters like Vasubandhu and Asanga, developed an extraordinarily detailed understanding of how karma operates. There are different types of karma based on the action's nature, its object, its intensity, and its proximity to ripening. There are karmas that ripen in this life, karmas that ripen in the next life, and karmas that ripen in distant future lives. There are individual karmas that you created alone, and collective karmas created by groups. There are throwing karmas that determine which realm you're reborn into, and completing karmas that determine the specific details within that realm. Understanding these distinctions helps you see the complexity of your current situation. Why were you born human rather than as an animal or in another realm? That's the result of throwing karma, powerful positive actions that propelled you into a favorable rebirth. Why were you born in this particular country, to these particular parents, with this particular body and mind? Those are completing karmas, filling in the details of the life your throwing karma made possible. Why do some things come easily to you while others remain difficult despite effort? Previous karmic accumulations in those areas, creating propensities that manifest as natural talent or stubborn obstacles. If you're beginning to see your life as a karmic landscape rather than a random series of events, hit that like button. This shift in perspective is the foundation for working with karma skillfully, rather than feeling victimized by circumstances. The Tibetan teachings describe 4 fundamental principles of karmic causation that operate as reliably as physical laws. Understanding these principles helps you navigate your life with wisdom rather than confusion. The first principle is that karma is definite. Positive actions inevitably produce happiness. Negative actions inevitably produce suffering. You cannot plant rice and harvest wheat. The correspondence between cause and effect is precise and unchangeable. This isn't a reward system imposed by a judge. It's simply how consciousness works. Actions motivated by wisdom, compassion, and generosity create mental patterns that experience reality as satisfying. Actions motivated by ignorance, hatred, and greed create mental patterns that experience reality as unsatisfying. The second principle is that karma multiplies. A small action can have enormous consequences. A single moment of genuine compassion can plant seeds that ripen across lifetimes, creating countless opportunities to benefit beings and accumulate further positive karma. A single moment of intense hatred can create suffering that extends far beyond the immediate situation, poisoning relationships and opportunities for lifetimes. This multiplication factor means your choices matter immensely. Every moment of mindfulness, every small act of kindness, every instance of restraining yourself from harm is creating vast positive potential. The third principle is that you don't experience results from karmas you haven't created. Whatever you're experiencing now, pleasant or unpleasant, is the fruition of your own previous intentional actions. This isn't blame or punishment. It's simply causation. You're not randomly assigned suffering by an indifferent universe. You're experiencing the natural consequences of patterns you yourself established. This principle is liberating because it means you're not a victim. Even when circumstances seem unjust or overwhelming, understanding they arise from your own karma gives you agency. You created these causes, so you can create different causes going forward. The fourth principle is that karmic seeds never disappear on their own. Once planted, they will eventually ripen unless you actively purify them through specific practices. A karmic seed might remain dormant for countless lifetimes, but it will not simply fade away with time. This means negative karma you created long ago still has potential to ripen as suffering unless you purify it. But it also means positive karma you created long ago still has potential to ripen as happiness. Nothing is wasted. Every virtuous action adds to your store of positive potential, waiting for conditions to activate it. These 4 principles explain patterns you might have noticed in your life. Why does kindness sometimes seem to bring more problems rather than rewards? Because the immediate circumstances might be ripening previous negative karma, while the positive karma from your current kindness hasn't ripened yet. Why do some people seem to prosper despite acting unethically? Because they're currently experiencing the fruition of past positive karma, while the negative karma from their current actions is being planted but hasn't ripened yet. The correspondence between action and result is certain, but the timing can vary tremendously based on countless conditioning factors. Comment below if you've noticed karmic patterns in your own life, situations where you can trace current circumstances back to previous choices, or where you've seen the multiplication effect of small actions creating large consequences. Now let's examine how karma specifically impacts your life's path and destiny. The Tibetan tradition teaches that karma operates on multiple levels simultaneously, shaping everything from your gross physical circumstances to your subtlest mental tendencies. At the most obvious level, karma determines your rebirth circumstances. Why were you born human rather than as an animal, hungry ghost, hell-being god, or jealous god? This is determined by the predominant karma at the moment of your previous death. Human rebirth specifically requires a foundation of ethical discipline, restraining from the 10 non-virtuous actions and cultivating their virtuous opposites. But within human rebirth, why this specific situation? The tradition identifies 8 favorable conditions and 10 endowments that make a life truly precious for spiritual practice. The 8 favorable conditions include things like being born in a place and time where Dharma is available, having mental faculties capable of understanding teachings, and not being completely consumed by survival needs. The 10 endowments include having interest in spiritual practice, access to teachers and teachings, and supportive circumstances for practice. Having all 18 of these is considered extraordinarily rare, the result of extensive positive karma accumulated over many lifetimes. Look at your own life through this lens. You're currently able to watch this video, which means you have internet access, leisure time, interest in spiritual topics, and capacity to understand complex ideas. These aren't accidents, they're karmic results. Billions of humans lack one or more of these conditions. Countless beings in other realms lack all of them. The fact that you have this opportunity is showing you something profound about your karmic accumulations. You've created the causes to encounter these teachings. The question is whether you'll use this opportunity to create causes for continued spiritual progress, or waste it on distraction and self-centered pursuits. Karma also determines your specific physical characteristics. The tradition teaches that certain physical attributes arise from specific karmic causes. A healthy, attractive body results from patience and absence of anger. A long life results from protecting the lives of others and avoiding killing. Wealth and resources result from generosity. Influence and respect result from humility and honoring others. Physical strength results from helping others with their burdens. Intelligence and quick understanding result from studying Dharma and helping others learn. Conversely, negative karmic causes produce corresponding negative results. If you frequently experience illness or physical pain, the tradition points to previous lives of harming others physically or with harsh speech. If you face constant poverty despite efforts to earn money, previous lives of stealing or miserliness. If others don't respect you or listen to your advice, previous lives of arrogance and disrespecting others. Again, this isn't blame. It's understanding causation so you can work with it skillfully. The tradition is quite specific about correspondence between actions and results. For each of the 10 non-virtuous actions, there are 4 types of results. The fully ripened result is rebirth, in an unfortunate realm. The result similar to the cause in experience means you experience something similar to what you inflicted on others. If you killed, you experience untimely death or chronic illness. If you stole, you experience poverty and loss. If you lied, you're deceived by others. The result similar to the cause in behavior means you have strong habitual tendencies toward that action. If you killed in previous lives, you have tendencies toward violence even when you try to be peaceful. If you gossiped in previous lives, you have compulsive tendencies toward idle chatter. The environmental result means your external environment reflects your karma. If you killed, you're born in harsh, dangerous places. If you were sexually harmful, you're born in dirty, unpleasant environments. Understanding these correspondences helps you read your life as a karmic text. What patterns repeat despite your best efforts to change them? Those point to deep karmic grooves carved by repeated actions across lifetimes. What comes naturally and easily? Those are areas where you've accumulated positive karma, creating propensities that express effortlessly. Where do you face resistance, obstacles, bad luck? Those are areas where previous negative karma is ripening, showing you where purification is needed. Share this video with someone who's struggling with their circumstances, who needs to understand that their situation isn't permanent or inevitable, that karma can be changed through wise action starting now. But karma doesn't just shape your external circumstances. It shapes your internal landscape, your personality, tendencies, and mental patterns. Every thought you habitually think carves deeper neural pathways, making that thought more likely to arise again. Modern neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself based on repeated patterns. Tibetan Buddhism discovered this principle centuries ago and developed it into a comprehensive psychology of mental conditioning. When you act repeatedly with anger, you're not just harming others in those moments. You're training your mind to default to anger. You're creating a karmic propensity where anger arises more quickly, more intensely, more frequently. Over lifetimes, this can become a defining characteristic, what we might call your temperament, but what karma theory reveals as accumulated conditioning. Similarly, when you act repeatedly with patience, You're training your mind toward patience as a default response. You're creating propensities that manifest as a patient nature. This understanding transforms how you work with your personality. Your traits aren't fixed or inherent. They're conditioned patterns, karmic accumulations that can be changed through deliberate practice. If you have a hot temper, that's the result of previous karmic conditioning, but it's not who you fundamentally are. Through practices like patience meditation, mindfulness of anger arising, and deliberately choosing not to act out anger, you can weaken those karmic seeds and plant new seeds of patience. Over time, your temperament genuinely shifts because you're changing the underlying karmic patterns. The same applies to every aspect of your psychology. Are you anxious? Previous karma of fear and insecurity, but changeable through practices that develop confidence and trust. Are you depressed? Previous karma of hopelessness and attachment to pleasure, but changeable through practices that develop joy independent of conditions. Are you addicted? Previous karma of craving and grasping, but changeable through practices that develop contentment and letting go. Nothing about your psychology is permanent or fixed. It's all karmic momentum that can be redirected through wise practice. Karma also shapes your relationships, one of the most impactful dimensions of your life path. According to the tradition, you don't randomly encounter people. Every significant relationship in your life is the ripening of previous karmic connections. The people you feel instantly comfortable with as if you've known them forever are people you've had positive connections with in previous lives. The people you feel instant aversion toward, seemingly without cause, are people you've had negative connections with previously. Your parents, siblings, children, romantic partners, close friends, bitter enemies. All of these relationships are continuing karmic stories that span multiple lifetimes. This understanding transforms how you relate to others. That difficult family member who's been a source of suffering for decades? In previous lives, you might have been the difficult one and they patiently endured you. Or you might have harmed them and now you're experiencing the karmic result of that harm. Or you're both working through complex karma created together over many lifetimes. Regardless of the specific history, understanding that the relationship is karmic rather than accidental helps you work with it more skillfully. The tradition teaches that every being has been your mother in some previous lifetime and has cared for you with dedication and love. This isn't just a pleasant thought. It's pointing to the vast interconnection created by countless lifetimes of relationships. When you truly contemplate this, it becomes harder to maintain rigid categories of friend and enemy, deserving and undeserving. Everyone you encounter is intimately connected to you through the web of karma and has been kind to you in ways you don't remember. This contemplation is the foundation for developing equanimity and bodhicitta. Equanimity means recognizing that all beings equally want happiness and want to avoid suffering, that your preference for some and aversion to others is just habitual pattern based on limited perception of recent interactions. Bodhicitta means expanding your concern beyond the small circle of those you currently favor, to embrace all beings as worthy of your compassion and service. When you understand that everyone has been your mother, that everyone is trapped in samsara by karma and ignorance just as you are, genuine bodhicitta becomes natural rather than forced. Leave a comment about a relationship in your life that might be karmic, where there's an intensity or pattern that seems to transcend this lifetime's interactions. Recognizing karmic connections helps you work with relationships more wisely. Now let's explore how you can actively work with karma to change your destiny. This is where the teaching becomes profoundly empowering. You're not passively experiencing karmic results with no ability to influence future circumstances. You have complete agency over the karma you create from this moment forward, and you have powerful methods for purifying negative karma from the past.